Hi, I'm Carolina from Jammin' and Cannon, and I'm going to teach you how to make sugar-free or low-sugar blueberry jam in the freshTECH Ball Jam and Jelly Maker. Before we get started, I want to let you know that I am an Amazon affiliate, and so if you purchase anything that I link below, I might get a small commission from it, but the price of the actual product does not change at all. So here we have some already washed blueberries, and we're going to put them in, I'm using a pie dish because we want to put them in a single layer and then crush them until we have 4 cups of crushed blueberries. I'm using a potato masher. Make sure you don't crush them too much. We don't want them like a puree. As you might see, I already have my ball water bath canner here warming up. It has about 6 half-pint jars and 2 quarter-pint jars. You could also make this recipe on the stovetop. That's actually what the recipe calls for, but I have made it in my jam and jelly maker plenty of times, and it's really easy. The recipe for this low or no sugar jam is actually on the Bernardin website, which I will put in the description below. But if you want to make it in the freshTECH Jam and Jelly Maker, those instructions will be on my website at jamminandcannon.com. Okay, we have our 4 cups of crushed blueberries here. We have 1 cup of unsweetened fruit juice. It can basically be any kind, but you do want to make sure it is unsweetened, and you want to make sure that it doesn't have any additional ingredients. A lot of juices will put vitamin C into their fruit juice, and it can affect the gel or the set of your jam. And then this is a very important ingredient. It's the Ball Real Fruit Low or No Sugar Pectin. This is 49 grams of the pectin, and it's important to use this because it was designed specifically for low or no sugar jams and jellies. So you do have to have this if you're wanting to follow this recipe. And if you are adding sweetener, if you're using either sucralose or if you're adding a low amount of sugar per the recipe instructions, you will also want that ingredient. I'm keeping this just mashed blueberries, so I will not be adding anything but these 3 ingredients. This is the Ball freshTECH Jam and Jelly Maker. So I have removed the little stirrer. We're going to sprinkle in our pectin evenly on the bottom of the Jam and Jelly Maker. Again, this is 49 grams. We're going to add in our blueberries as evenly as we can. And then we dump in our fruit juice. We'll put the stirrer back in. This button over here says jam, and that's the button we want to push. So after we press jam, we'll want to press this button, which is enter, and it will start to stir on its own. After 4 minutes, this machine will beep, and if you're using a sweetener of some sort, that's when you'll want to sprinkle it evenly over your mixture. The Jam and Jelly Maker just beeped, so now would be the time to add any sweetener. I am just going to go ahead and put the lid on. Now, because this Jam and Jelly Maker was actually made for smaller batches, maybe 3 or 4 jars of jam or jelly, and this recipe is 4 to 6 jars, I do recommend that you stay and watch your jam and jelly maker. And if the jam starts to look like it's going to boil over, go ahead and take the lid off and let it cool back down a little bit so it doesn't overflow. This is starting to boil pretty hard, so I am going to make sure I watch it very closely these last few minutes. I also recommend wearing something dark colored if you're going to be making blueberry jam, because it does pop when it starts boiling, and if you're anything like me, you'll definitely be getting it on you at some point. This has just beeped for the second time, so now we can remove the lid. And I have a bowl and a gravy ladle here ready to go for removing the foam. Now there's nothing wrong with this foam, it just won't look very pretty in your jars. It doesn't have to be perfect, we just want to get the majority of it out. Okay, now we're ready to start filling our jars. And while we're working with these jars, we'll go ahead and put the lid back on because we don't want that water getting too cool. Now we're going to debubble it. This just ensures that there are no bubbles somewhere deep down there in the jam. And so it keeps our headspace on point. And then I do a second measure to make sure we're at the 1/4 inch mark. Next, you'll apply a clean new lid and put a band on just finger tight. One thing I forgot to do on the last jar, I'm assuming it will be fine since I already put it in there, is to wipe the rim. Now this just ensures that we don't have any of that sticky jam on the top that could give us a fake seal, which means it's not really sealed, but the lid is sticking on because of the sugar. And with that jar that I already put in there, I'll just make sure, I'll try to keep track of it so we can use it first. All right, it looks like this is the last full jar I'm going to be able to get. There's a little bit left for a little sample once it cools down. So I'll go ahead and put that in this little 1/4 pint jelly jar. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and put this little cover for the jars on top of these. As always, if you're new to canning, make sure you have at least 1 inch of water above your jars. Now on this, we're going to turn it all the way up to canning and wait for it to come to a boil. The processing time for this recipe, once this comes up to a full boil, is 10 minutes. And of course, if you don't know, you have to adjust for altitude. So where I'm located, I will add 5 minutes. So as soon as this comes up to a full rolling boil, I'll set a timer for 15 minutes and I'll see when it's finished. Okay, the 15-minute timer has gone off and we have turned this off and unplugged it and taken the lid off. You need to remove the little cover for the jars. Now I'm going to let the canner sit just like this for 5 minutes. Okay, after 5 minutes, we can go ahead and remove the jars. Remember to go ahead and place them on a towel or a wooden cutting board or something to protect them from major temperature shifts. You also want to make sure to space them at least 1 inch apart so they cool quickly and evenly. Heard one pop. Now we will leave these undisturbed for 12 to 24 hours. I usually go ahead and leave them pretty much the full 24 hours. After that, you'll check to make sure they all sealed. If you have any that didn't, or like the little quarter pint that I had left over, those will need to go ahead and go in the fridge, and you'll want to use them as soon as possible. The others should be good. The ball lids say up to 18 months. However, most people will find that their jars will stay sealed and the contents will stay good a lot longer. Thanks for watching.